Hello and welcome to the Alpha Movement Podcast and the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement Podcast. My name is Tom Foxley and it's my job to give functional athletes a champ's mindset, and we do this through my coaching and also through this very podcast. Now, before we get into the show, which is going to be a look into the one tool that I start almost every athlete that I work with. I'll learn to say that better. It's the one kind of foundational tool that we start with. There we go. That's better. And it's an essential thing for every kind of athlete, and it's the thing that starts to give us more perspective on what's actually happening in our subconscious mind. Before we get into that though, I want to just bring up the seminars again. We've got a Mindset RX seminar where's the next one? Kennington in London. Next Saturday as we're doing this. So 17th of February in Kennington, London at CrossFit 3 Aces. And then the one off that, May 19th in Weert in the Netherlands, which is just near Eindhoven. And that's May 19th. And then we've got the 20th and the 27th in the northeast of the States. So head over to mindsetrx.com/seminars to book your tickets. Now, anyway, what we're going to talk about today is that one tool. But first, it's important to have a belief, a more fundamental understanding of our beliefs and why that comes into prominence when we start to talk about mindset. First of all, let's discuss where most approaches to mindset fail or they fall short. If we look at the example, or we'll use a metaphor for this, and we look into let's use why do CrossFitters get injured the whole time. And generally, us CrossFitters get injured because we forget the basics, we rush past a foundation of strength that most people build up, or most athletes build up through bodybuilding or strength training or simple 5x5 or powerlifting, something like that, and we rush to the elaborate dynamic movements. And this is a very similar thing to what happens when it comes to mindset. We look to tack on visualization. We look to tack on gratitude. We look to tack on a different perspective into our mindset. But it's all built on a really shitty foundation. And the foundation metaphor is overused, but I'm going to overuse it once more. We look to build a house on sand and shit, and the sand moves, and as does the shit. And then we wonder why it doesn't work. And you wouldn't build a house on sand and shit, so why would you build a mindset on beliefs which haven't served us in the past? And it's not your fault. Let me just say that now. I'm not criticizing you if your mindset isn't in the right place right now. Like, that's the very opposite of what I'd like to do here. But if we start building on a foundation which hasn't served us, then we're never going to get anywhere. So let's start moving that towards the towards what we need to do and rebuild that foundation and reestablish it, dig some deeper trenches. What we need to understand is this foundation is our belief system. Our beliefs define our actions in more ways than you can imagine. A very simple diagram of this is beliefs lead to our emotions, which lead to our actions or our behaviors, which reinforce our beliefs. So it's a very difficult loop to get out of. And if we just look at, again, we'll use the CrossFit example. Before CrossFit came along, there were very few people who believed that you could be fit and strong and flexible and have all these components of fitness at the same time. In fact, the mainstream were vehemently opposed to this. They would say things like you'd become muscle bound if you became strong, or you'd be losing your gains, and we now know that to be complete bullshit. What happened is we started looking at the evidence differently and started testing things and throwing away our assertions and beliefs in favor of evidence. And this is what we need to do with our own beliefs. And it's a very similar thing with the 4-minute mile. Many of you would have heard the story of the 4-minute mile. People used to think it was impossible to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And they thought that you'd actually die if you did that. So there we go on that. And it's been done hundreds of times now. our beliefs are essentially if we accumulate a lot of beliefs, they begin to define who we believe we are. And I call this belief of who we believe we are our center. Our center is our combined beliefs. And let me just say this once more, our center is who we believe we are. And if we add up all these beliefs, like, for example, if we use some common ones like I'm not good enough, or I'm weak, or I'm never going to succeed in this, or I'm a failure, so I always will be, or I'm a starter, but I never finish anything. This begins to define who we believe we are. And to go down the metaphor example again, these shifts can be so commonly held, but still completely false. If we look, sorry, I'm just walking around right now because I realised my laptop is about to die. So if it's going to get noisy, there you go. There we go, all better. So if you look into, as that metaphor I was talking about a second ago, if we look into the world of geocentrism, and geocentrism is the belief that was commonly held hundreds of years ago, until relatively recently, if you think about the length of mankind's existence. But that was that the Earth was at the center of not only our solar system, not only our galaxy, but at the center of the universe. And we now know how ridiculous that is. But because it was so established as a dogmatic truth, we refused to refute it. And it took people like Galileo and someone whose name I'm forgetting right now, to kind of put their hand up and say, actually, no, there's very little evidence that supports this other than it's quite a nice ego trip to believe that we are the center. And this belief was so commonly held, so foundationally part of our psyche, that the church and the governments tried to, which were much the same thing at that time, tried to literally kill the people, the scientists that were saying that this isn't the case. And this is a super important point. The closer that our beliefs are to our center, to who we believe we are, the more firmly, more fiercely we defend them. So if we have a belief that I'm not good enough, or I don't have time, because we believe we are a busy person, and a busy person is what we need to be successful in all areas of life, then we defend that to the death. And just because they're commonplace, doesn't mean that they're serving you. And I've spoken about one example, here's three more. You have to struggle to become the best in the world. And yeah, we hear the great stories of like committing yourself completely to the cause. But if you speak to anyone who is at the top of the game, yes, they work hard, but it doesn't feel like hard work for them. They're not embracing the struggle, they're embracing the process of improvement. So the fact that you have to struggle to become the best in the world is untrue. Or, I'm a negative person. Yeah, we pick up the times when we're negative because it reinforces that evolutionary strategy, the negativity bias, which means we're likely to see the negative examples more than the positive. But the truth is, we're not always negative, and we haven't always been negative. You weren't born a baby just like with your arms folded going, fuck this, I don't want to be here. You're born like smiling, laughing. That's who we are. And the last one is, the last one of these examples is, you don't have time. If you don't have time, you can't be successful. This is categorically untrue. I prove it time and time again with the athletes I work with. I prove it with myself. Time is a malleable factor, and it's a matter of priorities. But again, if you're finding resistance to that, there's a good chance that it's pretty close to your center. So another little example of how we defend our centers, and let's get controversial in a podcast. What about religion? Someone's got to be wrong, so we still defend them, and we defend them literally to death, as you can see all about us. And I'm not asking you to give up everything you believe right now, but maybe start to question it. It's essentially a matter of perspective. Perspective is everything. If we are myopic and we see the world from our center, from who we believe we are, this dictates everything. This dictates the world. This dictates our actions. But if we can take a step back, a small bit of perspective, and see the world for what it truly is, this is how we make sense of the world, and this is how we start making progress, because we become wrapped up in our own little loops of action, behavior loops, and we need to get perspective to get away from that. And this is why the traditional approach to mindset, or that mindset approach that I spoke about right at the beginning, does not work. Our beliefs are held subconsciously, and no matter what, our subconscious is infinitely more powerful than our conscious story that we try and tell ourselves. So if you look at the world of motivation and discipline, like saying to yourself, I've got to be more disciplined, I've got to work harder, and all this kind of stuff, it only lasts so long. You're never going to hold it up if the subconscious story does not change. So instead of focusing on the behavior, let's begin focusing on the reason it happens there in the first place. So we can't add shit on. We need to remove it. We need to take it away. We need to subtract. And the way we do this is, first of all, by beginning to learn these beliefs. We can't take these beliefs away without learning what they are first. We've got to isolate them, see them clearly. It's similar to what I've been talking about in my Instagram post a lot recently about fear. Like with fear, you can't just try and cover it up. You have to see it clearly, embrace it, and see it as a helpful thing, because it's guiding you to the potential holes you have in your strategy and your behavior, and your mindset is a much better way of saying that. So the way we do this is a little tool. Some of you call it journaling, some of you call it learning your language, some of you call it dictate journaling. Within my world, I generally call it consciousness streaming. It sounds a bit airy-fairy, but rephrase it as basically learning your subconscious stories. And this is what we're going to do. We begin with a piece of paper and a prompt, maybe. So a subject, maybe. One that I use quite a lot with my athletes is fear, or failure, or success, or roadblocks or obstacles, or goals, like things like that. They come up quite a lot. And we journal around those subjects. We dig into, we try and allow, instead of consciously creating a story to project into that, what we do is we begin to listen to what's going on. If thoughts come up, we write them, and this takes a long time. It takes a long time to get right. It doesn't take a long time every day, but it takes a long time to get right, because it's something that's very unnatural for us. So if it doesn't work at first, if you don't get like this clean flow of subconscious feed that's brought up to the conscious surface, that doesn't matter. Just let it flow. Let it work its way out. Let it just generate and seep out. And this is the strategy that works. So you may, as I said, you may get frustrated with it. Don't worry. You may get stressed out. You may suddenly see the world of beliefs and realize that it's all that you're feeling overwhelmed. But yeah, we've got to address these beliefs. It's the fundamental way. So to recap, beliefs form our actions, and beliefs may also form our center, who we believe we are. We've got to tap into these beliefs, and that starts by learning your language and tapping into that subconscious story. And by the way, this is a very similar way to how I'm going to open the brand new Mindset RX seminars. It's the kind of the second version, the new and improved Mark II of the seminars. And if you want to go to one of those, head to mindsetrx.com/seminars. If there's not one near you and you would like one near you, head to, or you can email me at tom@alphamovement.co. But the best, most reliable way to get that is to head on over to Instagram, which is @TomFoxley, or facebook.com/tom.foxley, and you can find me there. Seminars available. You guys know that. mindsetrx.com/seminars. If you enjoyed the show, I think this is a pretty special one. So if you enjoyed the show, leave 5-star reviews, share it with your friends, tell your family, and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll speak to you all very soon.